You will be shocked by what Nicolas Maduro does in Venezuela. Today, you will discover 18 scary facts that Nicolas Maduro does in Venezuela. Curious? Join us and let's go. Number 18. The suspicious death of Fernando Albán. The death of opposition councillor Fernando Albán in October 2018 represents one of the darkest episodes of the regime. Arrested on charges of conspiracy, Albán died in the custody of the Venezuelan intelligence service. The official version claims suicide, a jump from the 10th floor of the Sabin building. However, evidence points to torture and murder. Medical reports indicate fractured ribs and multiple injuries before death. The international community, including the UN and the European Union, demanded independent investigations that were never carried out. The case became a symbol of the violent repression against political opponents. Number 17. The airstrike on the Supreme Court. On June 27, 2017, a police helicopter attacked the Supreme Court of Justice and the Ministry of the Interior in Caracas. Piloted by Oscar Perez, a former police inspector, the attack lasted 2 hours and included gunfire and explosions. The incident sparked conspiracy theories that it was a fake operation by the government itself to justify greater repression against opponents. Perez was later executed in a military operation, leaving many answers about the true purpose of the attack. Number 16. Espionage system in embassies. The Venezuelan government maintains a sophisticated spy network within its own embassies to monitor citizens seeking consular services abroad. Officials are required to collect detailed information about Venezuelan expatriates, including their political activities and personal contacts. An internal classification system categorizes citizens based on their loyalty to the regime, directly affecting access to essential documents such as passports and birth certificates. Embassies maintain secret files on activists in the Venezuelan diaspora, sharing this information with intelligence services to persecute family members who remain in the country. Diplomats who refuse to participate in this surveillance system are immediately removed, and their family members in Venezuela face retaliation. I have a question for you. First, I'd like to tell you that it's possible to keep up with the biggest curiosities of our world every day. But for that, you need to be subscribed to our channel. So, have you subscribed yet? If not, take the opportunity to subscribe now. Now that you've done that, let's go. Number 15. The mysterious outbreak of hemorrhagic fever. In 2014, a mysterious disease terrorized the population of Aragua and Caracas. With severe symptoms such as high fever, rashes, and hemorrhages, the outbreak caused at least 10 deaths in a short period of time. The government's response was to deny the existence of the disease and persecute doctors who tried to warn the population. Governor Tarek El Ami even accused health professionals of terrorism for releasing information about the outbreak. The results of the samples sent for analysis were never released, increasing speculation about the true nature of the disease. Number 14. Forced labor camps in prisons. The Venezuelan penitentiary system has become a network of forced labor camps controlled by pranes, criminal bosses, in collaboration with the authorities. Prisoners are forced to pay weekly fees to survive, work in inhumane conditions, and participate in criminal schemes. In prisons such as Tocaron, the existence of telemarketing centers has been discovered where inmates are forced to carry out international telephone scams. The prisons have nightclubs, swimming pools, and restaurants for the criminal bosses, while the majority of inmates live in deplorable conditions. The government allows this situation in exchange for a share of the criminal profits. Number 13. Clandestine centers on military bases. The regime maintains a secret network of torture centers on military bases across the country. The most notorious, known as La Tumba, is located 5 floors below the intelligence building in Caracas. Political prisoners are kept in windowless white cells, under fluorescent lights, 24 hours a day, in temperatures close to 0 degrees. Former prisoners have reported using psychological pressure techniques developed by North Korean consultants, including prolonged sensory deprivation and mock executions. Leaked documents reveal the existence of medical teams dedicated to keeping prisoners alive during prolonged sessions of torment. Number 12. Total control of media and advertising. The manipulation of information is one of the Maduro regime's main tools of power. The government has implemented a rigorous system of media control through the forced acquisition of media outlets by allied businessmen, the closure of critical media outlets, and the systematic persecution of independent journalists. The National Telecommunications Commission, CONATEL, acts as a regulatory body, applying sanctions and revoking broadcasting licenses to outlets that dare to criticize the government. Self-censorship has become common practice among media outlets trying to survive. The regime maintains an extensive state propaganda network that systematically distorts reality, creating narratives favorable to the government and demonizing any form of opposition. Number 11. Obscene luxury. In stark contrast to the extreme poverty that plagues Venezuela, Maduro maintains a lifestyle full of ostentation and privilege. The Salt Bay restaurant episode in 2018 perfectly exemplifies this disparity. While millions of Venezuelans could barely afford food, the president was enjoying expensive dishes in Istanbul. The presidential family's luxurious mansions, international bank accounts, and exorbitant spending are maintained with embezzled public money. His wife, Celia Flores, is also involved in scandals, such as the case of her nephews being arrested for drug trafficking. Hyperinflation devastates the population, which depends on foreign aid to survive, while the president's inner circle lives in the highest standard of living. Number 10. Forced sterilization program. A government program billed as voluntary family planning hides a systematic campaign of forced sterilization in poor communities. Women seeking care at public clinics for routine procedures are subjected to tubal ligations without their consent during other surgeries. Internal documents reveal monthly sterilization targets imposed on public hospitals, with doctors threatened with dismissal if they fail to meet quotas. The program specifically targets women in areas known to support the opposition, using the food distribution system to identify and pressure potential candidates. Number 9. Psychological warfare laboratories. The Venezuelan government maintains centers specialized in psychological warfare, known internally as peace laboratories. In these facilities, teams trained by Cuban and Russian experts develop advanced techniques for social manipulation and disinformation. Former officials have revealed the existence of thousands of fake profiles on social media operated by government agents who work in shifts 24 hours a day to manipulate public opinion. The regime invests millions in cutting-edge technology to create deepfakes of opposition leaders in compromising situations and develops coordinated campaigns of digital harassment against independent journalists. Number 8. Extrajudicial executions as state policy. The Maduro regime uses extrajudicial executions as a systematic tool of terror and social control. The Special Actions Force, FAS, a unit of the Bolivarian National Police, is identified by the UN as the main executor of these lethal operations. During the so-called People's Liberation Operations, agents invade poor communities supposedly in search of criminals, but often execute unarmed people without any legal process. The victims are later labeled as criminals to justify the killings. The emblematic case was the execution of Oscar Perez in January 2018. Even after he attempted to surrender, he and his companions were killed without trial. During the 2017 protests, unarmed protesters were executed by the police and the Bolivarian National Guard, sending a clear message about the consequences of defying the regime. Impunity is absolute. There are rarely investigations, and when they do occur, they are superficial and without consequences for the perpetrators. The government-controlled judicial system protects the murderers instead of delivering justice. International organizations such as Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International extensively document these abuses, calling for sanctions against those responsible. Number 7. Fuel trafficking and oil mafia. Despite having the largest oil reserves in the world, Venezuela faces chronic fuel shortages due to a criminal scheme involving military personnel and employees of PDVSA, the state-owned oil company. Subsidized fuel is diverted to neighboring countries, mainly Colombia and Brazil, generating billions in illicit profits. Investigations have revealed that army generals control smuggling routes, while the population faces days-long lines to refuel. Corruption at PDVSA is so serious that oil production has fallen from 3 million barrels a day in 2013 to less than 700,000 in 2023, despite billions in phantom investments. Number 6. Gold trafficking with terrorist groups. International investigations have uncovered a complex network of gold trafficking between the Maduro regime and terrorist groups in the Middle East. The scheme involves the illegal extraction of Venezuelan gold, which is transformed into unmarked bars and transported on secret military flights to countries such as Turkey, and Iran. Leaked bank documents show suspicious transactions involving more than $3 billion in Venezuelan gold, traded through shell companies linked to terrorist organizations. The regime uses isolated military bases in the Amazon region as distribution points, where aircraft with switched-off transponders carry out regular night flights carrying shipments of the precious metal. Number 5. Drug trafficking in public hospitals. A macabre scheme of drug diversion and trafficking operates in Venezuelan public hospitals under the direct supervision of high-ranking officials of the Maduro government. Medicines donated by international humanitarian organizations are systematically stolen and resold on the black market at exorbitant prices. Investigations have revealed that more than 70% of medicines intended for the treatment of cancer and HIV disappear from hospital stocks, while patients die from lack of treatment. A network of distributors controlled by the military sets prices up to 1,000% above the original price, making medicines inaccessible to the majority of the population. Documented allegations show that hospital staff are forced to falsify inventory and death records to cover up the diversions. Number 4. Child exploitation in the armed forces. The Maduro regime has implemented a secret program to recruit minors into the military, disguised as a patriotic youth initiative. Children as young as 12 are taken from poor families with promises of education and food, but end up in military training camps where they are indoctrinated and prepared for civil repression. Internal reports document the use of these minors in intelligence operations, taking advantage of their harmless appearance to infiltrate opposition groups. The program also serves as a source of recruitment for paramilitary groups known as colectivos, where teenagers are trained for violent actions against protesters. Number 3. Paramilitary groups as a repressive force. The colectivos, government-backed paramilitary groups, are used as an instrument of terror against the Venezuelan population. Originally formed as pro-Chavismo community organizations, they now act as armed militias that terrorize opposing communities. With total impunity, they commit physical assaults, murders, kidnappings, and extortion. During the 2017 protests, these groups, armed with firearms and riding motorcycles, attacked peaceful protesters in coordination with official security forces. In addition to political violence, the colectivos are involved in criminal activities such as drug trafficking and smuggling. The government officially denies any connection with these militias, but several reports by international organizations such as Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch document the clear connection between the regime and these armed groups. Number 2. Massive digital espionage system. In collaboration with the Chinese government, Maduro has implemented a digital surveillance system known as Patria. Through the Carnet de la Patria digital identification document, the regime monitors every aspect of citizens' lives, from basic purchases to political participation. The system is connected to the distribution of subsidized food, medical services, and social benefits, forcing the population to submit to surveillance in order to survive. In 2022, leaks revealed that the regime uses facial recognition technology and data analysis to identify and persecute opponents. Chinese companies such as ZTE and Huawei have provided the technical infrastructure, including AI-powered surveillance cameras. Number 1. Forced disappearance of activists. The recent case of Rocio San Miguel, president of the NGO Control Ciudadano, illustrates one of the regime's most disturbing practices. Arbitrarily detained in February 2024 at the Caracas airport, San Miguel became yet another victim of the systematic forced disappearance of government critics. Her detention, accompanied by the arrest of her family members, follows a pattern of intimidation against human rights defenders. The authorities deny information about her whereabouts, preventing access to lawyers and family members. International organizations such as Amnesty International and the OAS strongly condemn these practices, demanding the immediate release of victims of forced disappearances. Now I want to know from you, which other country would you like to see here on our channel? Tell me in the comments below. Take advantage and click on this video that is now appearing on the screen, because I separated it especially for you. Well, that's it, and until next time, Curious One.